Hi, this is Zoe with Bits Widget, and today I'm going to show a quick demo of our widget. Bits is an editable widget made up of bits and pieces of all of our favorite widgets. Let's get started. I start on the home screen with a long press and choose to add a widget. Next, I choose the size of the widget I want to add. I'm going to choose the 4x1. When the widget is dropped on the home screen, it immediately goes to the configuration. The configuration screen has two main sections, the editing area up above and the tools area down below. The two sections are separated by a row of buttons. On the far right, the green button with the gears brings up some configurable settings. The first three settings control how often the widget refreshes three different things. The first controls how often the screen is updated. This doesn't take much power, so it can be updated fairly often. Right now it is set to refresh the screen once a minute, which is just right for keeping a clock on time. The second setting controls how often the widget checks the location. This requires GPS or Wi-Fi, which both drain battery power, so this is set to update less frequently. The third setting controls how often the widget gets a weather report. This requires use of the internet, which not only uses battery power, it may cost data fees depending on the carrier. The fourth setting controls the visibility of special indicators on the upper corners of the widget. You can't see them right now, so let's go back to the home screen and have a look. Whether the indicators are showing or not, the upper corners act as hotspots to either configure or refresh the widget. Touching the upper left corner will go back to the configuration screen. Touching the upper right corner forces the widget to do a complete refresh. The indicators are just a reminder that these hotspots are there. I don't need a reminder, so I'm going to turn them off. The last setting controls the background color of the editing surface. This is only the background color while editing. It does not show on the actual widget on the home screen. It's only a convenience for the editing screen. As you can see here, the actual widget still has a transparent background, even though it doesn't show that way in the editor. Back in the editor, let's take a look at the blue button with the globe on it. These settings control whether the location of the widget is locked or the widget uses GPS and Wi-Fi to track the location. Right now it's set to track location. I'll come back to the locked location settings later. Right now, let's go to the red plus button. This button allows me to add a new bit to the widget. I'm going to choose date so that my widget shows the date as well as the time. Notice that adding a new bit has activated editing and a whole new row of buttons has appeared. Each one of these buttons lets me control a different aspect of the currently selected bit. The blue screen button lets me control the position and size of the bit. I can use the controls down here to move the bit 1 pixel at a time, but it is far easier to just drag it to where I want it. I can also change the point where the bit is anchored so that no matter what size I make it, it is always anchored to the upper left. I'm going to anchor the date in the center so that it is always centered beneath the time. I'm also going to make it a little bit smaller using the slider down below. Using the purple font button, I'm going to change the font for both bits to my favorite, Clicopia. Now I'm going to add a graphic. I can choose to show the moon, which actually shows the current phase of the moon, or I can show the sun during the day and the moon at night, or I can choose to overlay them with a weather graphic. I'm going to choose the one with the weather. I'm going to anchor this in the upper right corner. And make it a little bit larger. I'm going to add the temperature anchored in the upper right corner as well. And finally, I'm going to add a line that shows me when the next alarm is. I'm going to center that right below the time and date. Just so I can show it, I'm going to change its color and turn off the shadow. And again, just so I can show it, I'm going to change the static text part of it. And one more time, just so I can show it, I'm going to play around with the layering, changing the order that the bits are drawn so that one appears on top of the other. Now, let's say I accidentally drag a bit off the screen, like this. I can call up the list of all of the bits on the screen and select it even though I can't see it. Now I can nudge it up 1 pixel at a time with the arrow buttons, but an easier thing is to touch the center button and bring it back to the center of the widget. Finally, let's take one last look at the widget to make sure it looks good and go back out to the home screen. Nice! Before I wrap this up, let's take a look at some other widgets I created earlier. Here's a very clean and elegant one using just text and semi-transparent rectangles. Here's one that's 4 by 2. Finally, I want to take a quick look at this 1 by 1 widget so I can show you how to set a locked location. Right now it's set to show the time in Paris, France, but I'm going to change it to Rome, Italy by typing Rome into the search box, touching the blue button, and choosing Roma from the list of choices that come up in the drop-down. And now the small widget is showing the time in Rome. I'm out of time. I hope you found this demo useful. For more information, visit our website at bitswidget.com.